crew for the Cheez-Its.
Get the socks.
Socks? No,
They're coming.
that's all right. This is good enough. So, make sure our ranking got here. So, well, thank you all for being here today, and committee members that weren't sure if we were going to be done, but I'm glad we are, so we can get this. And we've had our agriculture producers have had a long day. Hopefully, everybody was able to take part in the Wake Up to Ag breakfast. That took a little different turn this year, but that's all right. And I promise next year, I think we'll be even more people to be involved. We're still trying to get back into that thing of actually being together. And so, but heard many good comments, and we look forward to a robust discussion. I know last year when your groups presented, we had a lot of questions, and now we're all kind of gathered here, and so I hope that we have that as well, and then have some follow up too. So before we get into our informational briefings today of our commissions, we'll have bill introductions. So I'll call on Sharia Stafford. Yeah.
Thank you. Shahira Stafford on behalf of the Kansas Cooperative Council, introducing RS 2408, a bill that would create the Kansas Cotton Boll Weevil Act.
Okay, questions? Seeing none, it is introduced. Thank you. Other bill introductions today? I will have some more coming on Thursday, but we're trying to get the last of those done. So thanks to Kyle and his efforts. So with that, we will proceed. And this is part of the statutory responsibilities of our grain commodity commissions to make a report to the legislature. And for many years, it comes before this committee and the companion committee in the Senate. And as we say, when you get asked to put your name or to get appointed to one of these commissions, when it's your turn to come before the committee, you find it exciting, but realizing you have to be here early and then be here throughout the day because we don't meet back to back. So we appreciate it. So get my notes out here. We will start off with Kansas corn. And so with that, we'll call on yet again Mr. Kent Moore from IUCA. I remember
That's
that.
Right.
So
Outstanding.
Kent, yes, yeah, welcome to committee. And I believe, folks, committee, you should have Terry sent out stuff yesterday at 4:28 yesterday afternoon. So our assistant. So if you want to follow along on your computer. So go ahead, Kent.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here today. As the chairman said, my name's Kent Moore. I farm in the northwest part of Pratt County and obviously grow corn and other crops and cattle and things that normal Kansas ag producers do. On a yearly basis, got Josh Rowe here with Kansas Corn, got Greg Krissick, our CEO. We got J.W. Wells. He's an intern for us and is a junior at Kansas State University. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to do this on a yearly basis to keep the legislature up to date on what the commissions are doing. We had our third largest corn crop ever in 2021. Great, yields were up. Our acreage was down a little bit compared to the couple of years prior to that, but by and large, we've had three really good crops in a row, and very blessed to report that, and hope that 2022 yields the same kind of result for Kansas corn, but time will tell, as it always does. our task and our charge as commissioners is to determine how to best spend those commission checkoff funds that, in this case, that penny per bushel that gets assessed at the first point of sale in the state of Kansas. I think every commissioner on our board takes that responsibility seriously. We want to be good stewards of those funds, and I think this report and to you today will reflect that we're doing that to the best of our abilities. Obviously, one of the number one things that Kansas Corn concentrates on is market development. We do that a lot through our association with the U.S. Grains Council, U.S. Meat Export Federation, and just things that we do on a yearly basis within the state to try to raise awareness of all Kansans on the importance of agriculture and the importance of our commodity groups and corn in particular for us. I'm going to deviate off script a little bit. One thing that I would like to mention, obviously, world's been kind of on its ear here for the last couple of years through COVID. That's definitely impacted how we impact or reach foreign buyers. One thing that we've had the opportunity to do the past couple of years on my own farm, as Kansas Corn staff has come out this past spring. They came out one day when I was planting corn on an irrigated circle. Took video of all of that. I explained what I was doing, how I was doing it, the technology I was using, doing all of that stuff. And instead of having an international team there on site watching to do that, which is fairly typical with the COVID restrictions and stuff like that we've had for the past couple of years, we did that all through a virtual platform. It went great. We've done it a couple times now on our farm. And the good thing about it, or the unique thing about it is this was going towards a Asian area of buyers in the Southeast Asia, and the interesting thing was just the fact that we were on there virtually. They could obviously they saw the video that we shot. It's interesting to me that here I am in my office in South Central Kansas, and I'm presenting all these things to people that are interested in Kansas corn on the international scale, and the number of languages that was transmitted or translated into during that, and just really a neat experience that showed that no different than a lot of industries and sectors of society, we figured out how to do things in new and interesting fashion because of the cards we were dealt with COVID. One thing that the commission recognized a few years ago was we wanted to try to have a significant impact on our education system. We've invested a lot of commission dollars in developing STEM-related curriculum and material available for basically at this point K through 12, and we've had a tremendous amount of success with that. Basically from the standpoint of we provide everything that instructor is going to need to present that curriculum. They've got the curriculum, they've got every piece of hardware that they'll need to conduct that science lab centered around ethanol production, or that science lab centered around soil health. So it's been really, really successful. We've reached a lot of students. I think last year, the hands-on portion of that, we reached 55,000 students. We've got a great network of educators in the state that have recognized the value of the curriculum that we're providing, and have really committed the time necessary to educate themselves and educate other educators about the resources that we have available at no cost to them. And it's just exceeded our expectations of the impact that we could have. Obviously, on the research end of things, we continue to do a lot of work through K-State, through KU, through Pitt State, with dollars directed towards research. That always is interesting, and I always think yields a good result and an interesting result, and is a service to our growers. I'm going to wrap up. I know you guys have had a long day. We've had a long day. I know you're probably sitting there in session just looking at your watch thinking, by gosh, I sure hope we make it to these commission presentations. But I would like to comment about our refund rate. Obviously, the corn checkoff and that penny is refundable. This past year, our refund percentage was 7.3%, down from 8% in fiscal year 20. That's pretty historically low refund rate for us. I think it's a true reflection of the value that Kansas farmers see in that penny at the first point of sale and what we do with it to try to increase exposure to corn and the profitability of such for the state of Kansas and the driver that is to our economy. So with that, I will conclude and stand for any questions whenever called upon.
All right, thanks, Kent, and we'll do this commodity by commodity. So who's got the first question? All right, I guess I'll go to Representative Newland.
You didn't think I was going to not ask a question, right? Okay. Thanks for being here and thanks for your presentation. A lot of my constituents in my area are extremely concerned about their input costs this year, as you well know. It touches you as well as everybody else. What is corn looking at when we see the crippling effect of triple anhydrous prices and
right? I think that obviously I think that I wouldn't particularly think that Kansas is going to see a rise in number of acres in 22, basically from the standpoint of input cost. I think we're probably already going to reflect that we've probably got a few more wheat acres in the ground than we've had the past few years. That's a reflection of input cost. On my own farm, that cost per unit of nitrogen is anywhere from 2 to, if you buy it today, it'd be basically 3 times what we spent a year ago for a unit of nitrogen. So that puts us in a pretty precarious position from the standpoint of, if commodity prices will stay where they're at right now, you can say, yeah, okay, that'll kind of work. But it's definitely going to add some stress to the bottom line. I think that obviously, excuse me, the past couple of years we've had good years, real good years, and hopefully that puts producers in a position where they can kind of weather this storm. And the only other comment I'd have is that moisture. I mean, we're looking at a good chunk of the state that's way behind where we need to be moisture-wise. So hopefully that changes sooner rather than later. But my dad's 87, still calls himself a farmer. He's seen a lot of things. The generations, the fifth generation here, so they've all, in my farm and family. So we've seen a lot of things and weathered a lot of adversity. We'll do it again. That's what we do.
The questions? Talk about ethanol. And I know we don't have ethanol people here, but obviously, I mean, corn is primarily the main driver here in the state when it comes to ethanol production.
Yeah.
That's been a very interesting ride. The last quarter, things have been pretty well. But the last couple of years, as you said, with COVID, people weren't driving as much. And in that time, Kent, we've seen electric vehicles that almost literally explosion. You hate to say that when you turn the batteries, but things like farm pickups, light duty farm trucks, saying they're going to be there. I'll believe it when I see it, but all that cuts into ethanol usage and possible demand. And I know that's probably even a federal thing, but Kansas has been one of the early adapters and one of the leaders when it comes to ethanol.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that from the state standpoint and from a federal standpoint is getting E15 approved. That makes a huge difference from the demand spectrum. And every day you hear a lot about EVs. I mean, I think that, and then if you read a little further and look a little deeper, I mean, I think there's still a lot of time and value related to what ethanol can provide as a clean and efficient fuel. One thing that Kansas Corn has done is we're partnering with Missouri and Nebraska Corn Commission and sending some dollars for infrastructure out to California. One of the main markets for ethanol and new growth in ethanol markets for Kansas ethanol is out west. And you know, California might be the first place you think, well, gosh, everybody out there is going to drive an electric vehicle just before you know it. But the bottom line is there's a ton of people, a ton of vehicles, and they're all going to be fueled, hopefully by higher blends of ethanol, well into the future. And we'll see what the battery brings eventually, I suppose.
Representative Seibert online. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Newland, another question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to commend Corn and others on how great a job they do with education in the classroom. I guess my question would be is it as well recepted in the urban areas as it is in the rural communities?
Yeah, actually it is. And, you know, when we set that program up, we told staff, we said, we don't care where we have this impact. We want to have just as heavy saturation and impact of this curriculum and hardware that we're providing is in rural as we are in an urban setting. And we've made real inroads in both of those. And USD 259, Wichita, is starting to implement our lesson plans in a lot of their curriculum. And I think they see that from the standpoint of here we have an organization that is providing great curriculum with all the material and hardware we need to do this lesson at zero cost to the district. And I think they recognize that the value in that and the quality of product that we're providing them and the hands-on learning that gives those kids. And I, you know, to me, at least personally, I mean, you know, do I think that you know, that's going to inspire somebody to be, you know, be a hands-on farmer, but maybe it inspires them to look at employment in the ag industry. And that's what matters. And because that's a real struggle, whether you're talking about rural Kansas or more urban Kansas. I mean, how do we keep kids here? And part of this effort is just to try to plant that idea in a kid's head that, you know, this agricultural route might work. It doesn't mean you're going to live in Pratt County, Kansas, and maybe it does. But the bottom line is maybe that spark of agricultural interest keeps them in Kansas, and that's our goal.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and your success there.
Representative Minix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to follow up on that a little bit. In Pratt County, Kansas, you're the fourth generation? And
I'm five, actually.
You're five, actually. Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to your dad's time and his horsepower and the size of his machine and the number of people it took to run the acres at that time carried forward to your operation today. We just spent the afternoon working on maps downstairs, and a lot of people don't understand why we're losing population in some of our more rural areas. I'm trying to illustrate what it takes to be a producer, and then maybe all those people that we need in the background that live in their towns that are supporting to agriculture as it's changed in a generation.
Yeah, it's just amazing. My granddad farmed out in western Kansas, and one of his favorite things to tell me or ask me was, well, what's next? And obviously I don't know. But when my dad returned from K-State in 1956, he had one tractor, maybe 60 to 70-ish horsepower. And today I can look at a center pivot on my cell phone and do anything I want to with it. I can, I've got sensors in the field that are measuring the attentiometer, basically, that's measuring the contraction and expansion of that corn stalk during the day. That's giving me a graph of what water use is. So, the technology that I have at my fingertips is really just mind-blowing. And at the flip side of that means that I myself and the people that work for me can cover a lot more acres and do it efficiently. And so, yeah, that has led, right or wrong, that has led to less population in rural areas. And to reverse that trend would be say, well, heck, let's just get rid of some of all that stuff. Well, you can't do that. You don't expect that from any other industry. And so I mean, I think our focus as Kansas Corn is again, how do you entice that kid to stay there and become a highly trained and a very well paid technician at John Deere or Case IH or whatever. I mean, that's the goal. It's how, because when they come out and work on my equipment, the first thing they do is they plug in a computer. They don't grab a wrench. They haven't grabbed a wrench now for years. I mean, the first thing they do is they plug in their computer and the machine tells them what in the world's going on. And even that's getting to the point where, heck, they don't even have to come out. It goes up into the cloud and tells the dealership that, hey, this combine's got XYZ problem. And so it's just a continually evolving industry, no different than any of the rest of them. And we're just fortunate to be part of it here in this state of Kansas.
All right. Thanks. You stick around in case we have further questions. We'll make sure we get everybody in that we want. So thanks a lot. Okay, and then also they have provided their fiscal year 2020 financial audit, the year-end budget report, the budget, and then that summary that he just referenced. So let's go now out west to Goodland. Brian Lennon, I believe, is on the line. And Brian, I hear good news that we are receiving precipitation there, and hopefully it is stopping in Phillips County as it works its way. But I hear south of you, there's a lot of snow. So welcome to committee, Brian Lennon, and you've been here before, so it is you're up.
All right. Well, thank you, Chairman Rogers, and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to provide an annual report from the Kansas Wheat Commission. My name's Brian Lennon. I'm a past chairman of the Kansas Wheat Commission. I farm in northwest Kansas in Goodland and also in eastern Colorado. And you're correct. I reported this morning at the Senate Ag Committee that we had 2 inches on the ground. It was still snowing. And at this point, we've got close to 6 inches and it's still snowing. And Mount Sunflower actually has about 27 inches. So pretty decent snow in the area, fairly widespread. And that's good news for Kansas agriculture, I can say for sure. It certainly doesn't have us out of hawk yet, but it's got us, we're a lot further than we were a day ago. So that's good. So just to remind you, Chairman, the Kansas Wheat Commission was established by the Kansas Legislature in 1957 to represent the state's wheat producers in research, domestic marketing, international marketing, education, and communication. Our group's funded by the Wheat Assessment, which collects 2 cents per bushel of wheat at the first point of sale. And the Kansas farmers who grow wheat are our stakeholders, and our 9-member commission represents these farmers. So in addition to the copies of this testimony, my testimony today, we've also presented you with a copy of our 2021 annual report. Our fiscal year 2021 audit is in process and will be approved by our board in March, and you'll find our unaudited financial report in our annual report for fiscal year 21. So winter wheat production was for 2021 was 364 million bushels. That was up 29% from the previous year. Area for grain at 7 million harvested acres was up 12% from the previous year, following lowest planted acres in a century, 100 years. Yield was forecast at 52 bushels per acre, which was 7 bushels above the previous year. And average Kansas wheat yields have increased 10 bushels per acre, or 27% over the past 10 years, from a 37 bushel average to a 47 bushel average. Every year we export roughly half of our Kansas wheat crop, and that makes export promotion through U.S. Wheat Associates essential. U.S. Wheat's an organization of 17 state wheat commissions, and they leverage farmer and federal foreign market development dollars to promote wheat exports. Overall exports Wheat exports were down 5% this marketing year, which runs June through May. And hard red winter wheat exports were down 14% from last year at 321 million bushels this year. Top customers were Mexico's number 1, China was number 2, Nigeria was number 3, and Japan was number 4. China, who purchased 45 million bushels, they came in as the second largest buyer, primarily due to the U.S.-China Phase 1 agreement that was signed in 2020. The Latin American region of Mexico, Central America, and South America imports nearly 1 billion bushels of wheat annually, with 281 million bushels coming from the United States this year, a decrease of 15%, mainly due to strong U.S. wheat prices and increased competition in that South American market. Because of the importance of exports, trade issues have really been at the forefront of our efforts over the past year. We believe it's in the best interest of wheat farmers to renegotiate trade agreements and maintain relationships with our international customers. Kansans serve in trade policy leadership positions with U.S. Wheat and the National Association of Wheat Growers. I currently serve as the chairman of the Joint International Trade Policy Committee for U.S. Wheat and NOG, and a former Kansas Wheat staff member and K-State graduate Dalton Henry is the current VP of Trade Policy with the U.S. Wheat Associates. So I get to work with Dalton pretty closely on that. In addition to those international marketing efforts, nutrition education also continues to be an important focus for our commission. Our Kansas Wheat Innovation Center is equipped with a test kitchen, and we also have a full-time nutrition educator on staff. We're one of the only state wheat commissions to have a nutrition educator on staff. And we believe these assets are vital as we continue to battle fad diets such as the low-carb and gluten-free trends. The Kansas Wheat Commission also belongs to 2 national consumer education organizations, the Wheat Foods Council and the Home Baking Association, both of which are vigilant on these diet topics, and they've been instrumental in disseminating accurate nutrition information regarding wheat and wheat foods. For National Ag Day, we worked with 4 other commodity groups represented here today, as well as livestock groups, Kansas Farm Bureau, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture through the Kansas Farm Food Connection to take our agriculture message to consumers. 250 farm food crates were distributed to consumers in Kansas, and these crates had promotional items from all of our groups, activity books, and a video message from a farm family about making pizza. And then Kansas Wheat also secured bags of flour from Stafford County Flour Mills and donated bowl scrapers so each family could make their own pizza crust homemade. Kansas Wheat Commission continues to be a top supporter of the Kansas Foundation for Agriculture in the classroom, and they share our ag message with school-age children. Their office is located in the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan. All of our efforts to improve the productivity and profitability of Kansas wheat farmers continue to center around research. We are currently in our 10th year in the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center, which is located just north of Bill Snyder Family Stadium on ground owned by Kansas State, just off Kimball Avenue in Manhattan. This center, paid for by farmers through the wheat assessment, is designed from the ground up to be the nation's home for wheat-based collaboration and innovation, including cutting-edge research in wheat variety development. We have 37,000 square foot of laboratory and greenhouse space and a dozen full and part-time plant scientists working to create wheat doubled haploids, which can speed up the time it takes to create new wheat varieties from 12 years all the way down to 6 years. So about cuts it in half. And the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center represents the single largest investment by wheat producers in the nation. The commission has invested more than $1.3 million, which is more than 20% of our budget, in the research proposals with Kansas State and other organizations. Included in these research proposals is funding toward K-State's wheat breeding programs in Manhattan and Hayes. Other Kansas wheat-funded research projects are leading the way toward identifying genes that improve resistance to viruses, engineering resistance to pests, and phenotyping wild wheat ancestors for drought, disease resistance, and other traits. It's currently estimated that this year's Winter wheat seeded area is 7.5 million acres, up from last year's seeded area of 7.3 million acres. We're hopeful that Mother Nature will help us grow a bountiful crop this year, and she's doing her part today, at least in western Kansas, and I hope that covers the rest of the state. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you or the committee would have.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Questions for Brian Lennon? Who's that, you? Who? Oh, Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, I had an opportunity to tour classrooms out in Stafford, Kansas on I believe it was the Farm Bureau tour, leadership tour. Amazing what you're doing in classrooms in that city, what those kids are learning. And it, as I was listening, you've got a lot of figures here, but kind of what in the last maybe 5 years has been your biggest research development? I was in a lab in Manhattan a few years ago, and they were doing grains. And what's been the biggest new thing you've discovered in research?
Well, I don't know if it's a success story just yet, but one of the things we've really been working on is working on the genes and the proteins that cause the problem with celiac disease, the gluten intolerance. And we've had researchers there. They've identified which proteins kind of cause that problem, and they're currently working on trying to, see how they can change that protein or change the production in wheat to create bread that still has good low volume and good, aeration properties, but and good, of course, flavor and texture and all that, but doesn't create the reaction for celiac sensitive patients that they do today. And I don't know that that's really a success story yet today, but it's exciting to me that we have researchers who can work on that and make progress toward that, because ultimately my daughter's actually suffers from some allergic reactions to gluten. And I know she'd love to be able to eat regular bread and pasta just like we eat all the time. And it'd really be an accomplishment if we could get to the point where our wheat didn't cause that reaction in that roughly 3% of the population that suffers from celiac. So that's probably the most encouraging thing that I've heard in the last couple of years.
Well, that is very encouraging. And I have a grandson that had to go, 30 days without bread. It about killed him. He was like 9.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you're doing that. And so many children especially are tested and they go without, because everybody assumes, well, this might be wrong, and so they go a whole month. That's affecting a lot of things. That's a good comment. And is there anything else along that line you'd like to share? Because I'm always interested in what you're working on. So
Well,
that's
something
very
different. Yeah, we have Romulo Lalato out at the Hayes Experiment Station, and he's working on varying fertility rates to try to sort of maximize not only production of wheat in terms of bushels and yield, but also maximize the quality factors. And so he's worked on, varying the fertilizer rates on, or the fertility in the soil on different plots on his wheat plots in Hayes, and trying to kind of zeroing in a little bit on protein, because protein is such an important quality factor in wheat, and it's so important for us to create, good flour producing wheat that also has high protein. And generally speaking in wheat, protein and yield tend to have an inverse relationship. So when we get moisture and our yields are higher, our proteins tend to be lower, and vice versa. And so Romulo has been working on trying to sort of maximize the uptake of fertilizers and nutrients in the plant to figure out what's the sort of premium level that will create the best wheat, still the highest yield with a high value of protein too. And so that's another one that we're watching very closely, because we don't have too much trouble generating protein out here in western Kansas, but if we could get to where we could hit higher protein and the higher yields, that would be a a real boon for the wheat industry, I think. So that's another one that we're working on. There's a lot of research proposals that are undertaken each year, but those are a couple of the big ones that I would say have been really important to wheat.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other questions? Representative Newland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right. Tell me the partnerships that we have globally, because this isn't just a Kansas thing that we do here in Manhattan, but it's globally.
It is global. I can't tell you the number of offices that US Wheat has around the world, but I want to say it's in the teens, close to 20. I know we have offices in Korea, Egypt, Hong Kong. Of course, we have Argentina down in Chile, and then also up in Mexico City. And I've visited a few of those places. I've actually been to Mexico City and Guadalajara in Mexico. I've been to Lima, Peru. I've been to not Cartagena, but can't think of the city in Colombia. And then I've also been overseas to South Korea and China. And it, just like what Kent said for the corn growers, which I'm also a corn grower, but you know, those face-to-face meetings and relationships are really important, but we provide a lot more than that through US Wheat. We provide technical expertise and training materials. We've even helped, they've even helped, millers and buyers across the world source their wheat, source the type of quality and the wheat with the characteristics that they really need for their milling companies. And so it's really a relationship-based environment. And without US Wheat and the support that we have from them, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it alone as Kansas. I mean, it's really important that we have those other 17 states involved, and we kind of send out a unified message about wheat and the value that US commodities can provide to other countries. And I'm just really proud of the work that they've done. And yeah, everybody's talking about COVID-19, but US Wheat's the same way. They did a ton of webinars and virtual meetings where instead of having a group of 5 or 6 buyers or millers or bakers come to our farm, you can have a few hundred of them online, participating in a question and answer session, just like I'm doing here with you all today. And we can reach a lot of people with the money that we have invested in wheat. And it's really important to our country, to our economy, and to our farms to keep that ball rolling and move that needle for wheat in the world. So thank you for the question.
You bet. Thank you for your presentation.
Other questions? Before we go, and if you can stay on the line, Brian, in case we have some at the end, just want to thank, I believe it's the commission that is investing with the ag statistics so that we have reports during the winter months on the condition of the Kansas wheat crop. A lot of states, don't make that investment, and I don't remember exactly who does that, but Kansas has decided to do that. That first of the month, in fact, we just got it. I think was it Monday. I think the latest condition and realizing the volatility of not only because of us of lack of moisture, but the new buzzword, the geopolitical, that's the word we're using now, what's going on in the Ukraine, I think it is a great service to farmers and to the market. So I just want to thank you publicly for that.
I appreciate that. I agree with you. That's a big factor to tell the world what the condition of the Kansas wheat crop is. So thank you.
Okay. Last call. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Up next, let's go to soybeans. Keith Miller, representing the Kansas Soybean Commission, is here. Mr. Miller, no stranger to this committee. So, Keith, thanks for being here.
Chairman Rogers and House Ag Committee. My name is Keith Miller. I live at Great Bend, Kansas. I represent the District 5 on the Kansas Soybean Commission. And I raise a little bit of everything on my own farm. The commission manages funds collected through the soybean checkoff. The checkoff funds promote research. They promote overseas trade. We do a lot of things with those research dollars. All the soybean farmers in the U.S. participate in the checkoff and contributing 0.5% to the of 0.5% of each bushel at the point of first sale. So the collection here in Kansas, half of it stays with the Kansas Soybean Commission, and the other half goes to the national organization, which has 78 farmers and 30 soybean producing states as members of that organization. So they help promote our products as much as anybody does. KSC is comprised of 7 of us that represent separate districts, and then we have 2 at-large positions on our commission, and 1 that got appointed. Excuse me. I got appointed to be a commissioner for some reason. They thought they wanted me to help with their stuff, which is fine. I'm glad to do it. In fiscal year 2021, we collected nearly $6 million on the 2020 soybean crop, a historical record. About 4.1 was extended to different programs that we have throughout the state, and we've done a lot of projects. Given the production numbers, the Kansas Commission is tasked with finding and strengthening markets for our soybeans. The enclosed marketing plan details what we are doing and how we are trying to boost the profitability of the Kansas soybean producer by improving quality and successfully marketing our products. To leverage our resources, some of the work is done through organizations that we belong to, and they are included in the marketing plan. We strive to create and progress powered by Kansas farmers with every investment made from checkoff dollars. Here are some of the highlights that we spent the money on last year. The international marketing development is a priority for Kansas Soybean Commission. In September, we celebrated 40 years of our state working with the Heian province in China. Now, since that celebration, that province has purchased 500 metric tons of Kansas soybeans through the DeLong Grain Company. And the reason why they wanted to purchase Kansas is because our protein level of the soybean is higher than the other parts of the country because of our growing conditions. Because of that relationship, we made that sale. We have valuable partners that work with us, the U.S. Soybean Export Council, the United States Meat Export Federation, the USAPEC, and others that help us do these marketing programs. The production research supported by Kansas Soybean, we work on genetics, pests, disease, soil management, and now we're working on shortening or see if we can shorten the amount of the year that it takes to grow soybeans. We're working on roots and seedling diseases, and we're developing new germplasms that will hopefully produce more oil. Pittsburgh State has been working with us, and we're doing polymer studies there, and they have some real promising items that should be coming out on the market in the next year or 2. Last week I was at the National Biodiesel meeting, and man, that looks promising for Kansas soybeans. Most people here in this area don't realize it, but the West Coast states have said that they want all of their diesel fuel to be eliminated and it'd be biodiesel be run through their products by the year of 2030. So think about that, how many gallons of oil it will take to produce that much biodiesel. We can't hardly produce enough in the United States to meet that market demand. But that's not the only one that's coming about. All the states in the Northeast want biodiesel to be used for their heating oil. And the reason for it is it's so much cleaner than diesel fuel. And it will clean up the air in their cities and in their states. And that's why the market is really going nuts over biodiesel. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of market development in that area. Animal agriculture is directly correlated to soybean demand. 97% of all the soybeans that are used in the U.S. It goes to use and feed for hogs, chickens, and the newest one that's really taken off is pet foods. There's a lot of pet foods using a lot of soybean meal, and that's a huge market for us. Educational efforts to reach our consumers are continuing to gain importance. We've reached over 20,000 students directly this year, and the family and consumer science programs have been a big part, and we've been holding field trips and different things, and you just can't believe how much interaction with those kids is having on them, and not only on those kids, but their parents. Their parents will call us and ask us questions, and that's what it's all about, is teaching what is going on in Kansas agriculture. We also provide things in Soy Notes and in the High Plains Journal and in Kansas Farmer. This year we had a yield contest, and we provided a small incentive to get people to enter it. And the top yield of soybeans in the state of Kansas this year was 111.52 bushels, and it was turned in by McPherson County farmer Chad Pinner. We feel that by doing this, they will help share the different things that they're learning, and maybe we can help all the farmers of Kansas increase their yields. It's difficult for us, or for me, to cover every single checkoff investment that we've made this past year. But I guarantee you one thing, we've been busy, and things are really picking up for the soybean industry. Our administrative budget includes cost of collections, audits, elections, and all the other commission expenses. And our records have all been audited, and they have been approved. And we even have the USDA and USB audit our stuff because of the way our system is set up. I want to thank you for the time that you have allowed me to talk about Kansas soybean and the 16,000 soybean farmers across the state of Kansas. I want to thank you.
All right, Keith, thanks. Questions? Keith Miller, soybeans. What's that? Joe Newland, Representative Newland.
Not letting you off that easy,
I knew
Keith.
you wouldn't.
Keith, over the years, soybean has struggled trying to get rid of the misinterpretation of what a GMO is, as well as other crops. And what do you think the outlook is now, especially maybe not domestically, but globally?
It seems to be letting up. We're not having to fight it near as hard as we used to. And I think part of the issue that will really help us is the demand for the oil that's coming out of the soybean, being able to clean up the environment and being able to provide a fuel that will be readily used by the motors that we are currently running. That's going to be a huge help to us because we can't produce enough soybeans for the demand that we see is coming for biodiesel. There's a new plant being put in down your country. And there's another one, a regular biodiesel plant being built just northwest of Wichita. And I was contacted while I was at the biodiesel conference. There's a possibility of a foreign country would like to build one here in the state of Kansas. So we are trying to do everything we can to develop that market and make it so that we got something that we can sell.
Well, we use biodiesel exclusively on our farm too, so we do need to promote that. Another problem we have down in our area right now is the Enlist herbicide that has been pulled by the EPA after producers have already purchased their herbicide, have purchased their seed, and are struggling to figure out what we do now. Have you heard any news on that front at all, Keith?
I guarantee you we're working on it. We're working with the EPA trying to get that reconsidered. The national organization is working on it extremely hard, and you're not the only one. I got mine pulled too, so it is a problem.
Well, it's, especially since it affects the 10 or 11 counties in my area. It's a lot of concern. And I thank you for your presentation and for answering the questions. Appreciate it, Keith.
Good, yeah. And we're working on that and what we can do as a committee to show our support to whoever's trying to get that resolved. So, other questions? Mr. Miller? Representative Minix?
Looking at your audit, you're up about $1.9 million from the year prior. That tells me on the checkoff, we've sold a lot of bushels. And I see the same thing on corn. We've sold a lot of bushels. Kansas producers have been very active and grown lots of crop. And I'm also looking at these commodity prices right now is phenomenal. Just off the top of your head, what do you think the impact of our exports is that's attributed to some of this? Because both of your organizations work very hard on exporting or alternative uses of the grain like soy diesel or ethanol.
We are doing everything we can to export, and that's one of the reasons why the amount that we have raised, you see the prices going up because we are getting rid of the product. Now, some people say, well, why do you need that money? Well, we've already increased the amount of research we're doing with Kansas State especially to use those dollars to the benefit of all producers. And we're doing a lot more research. One of the things that you asked for unique ideas, we're funding a study with Kansas State University that is putting a grinder on the rear of the combine that's grinding the weed seed up so it will not germinate. And it's a new program just coming out, and we're funding the research to see if we can fix that. And because of input costs, we're not going to be able to buy the chemicals that we need. So we're trying other things to try and make it so it's profitable.
I tried to load that question up to get your sales pitch. For a 2-cent checkoff, you're giving us a 25-cent return. This is your chance to tell the producers out there how much good you're doing. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Miller? Okay, well, I know the other thing that you didn't touch on that and then also make another pitch is aquaculture. Aquaculture is one, and the former exec, Ken Johannes, is really taking that on as well as kind of that next phase. And one thing I have learned over the years is how important the poultry industry, it works hand in hand with soybeans as well. So appreciate everything you're doing. So my pitch is, I believe that we are pro forma on Friday, and you'll be more than happy to join. If y'all come, we may have a little bit of an issue, but if y'all want to come to Salina for the Kansas Commodity Classic, you will learn these groups will also be making presentations there. So pro forma, there's no better, no excuse, So no, but it's good. So thanks again for being here, sticking around all day. So
All right, I will.
okay, so corn, wheat, soybeans. Now we have a new one that's coming for our committee, and he's in a new position. So I guess we just let you get this all built up. So we're glad, but. A grain sorghum is one that continues to do good things in Kansas, and we're looking forward to your report. So, Kevin Kniebel, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, welcome to committee.
Yes, I'm Kevin Kniebel from White City, Kansas. I farm south of Junction City in Morris County. I represent District 8 of the Sorghum Commission. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. I brought along Jess McCurry, our executive director, Adam York, our program director, and Kent Winters. He's the president or the chair of the Kansas Grain Sorghum Association. So that's the legislative side, and he probably visits with you guys at some point. So let me say that Kansas has had a very meaningful year. A lot of things going on. I became chair this year. Stephen Biggie from Stockton was a chair. He served that position for 6 years, went through some challenging budget cycles, as you too went through some challenging budget cycles, and like you, our coffers are a little better this year. We hope to manage those wisely and get a lot of return. With that, we have looked after that investment. Increased market demand and profit opportunities have helped our crop immensely. So the sorghum crop this year is building on last year's momentum. Last year was good. This year's better. 20% more acres, 14% more production, and things are looking good. With that, the increased price helped generate dollars. We have a assessment of 0.6 of 1%, or not 0.6. It is 0.6 of 1% of the sorghum's value. And so that goes to the United Checkoff program. And we have Kansas producers that are on that delegation, and they help, point funds where needed, and we do get our budget from them. We have partnerships with Kansas State University and our Center for Sorghum Improvements. It is housed there, and we leverage investments with private and public partners. And I think that leverage is very important, so the dollars we have go a lot further, and we've gotten a lot of return from that investment. Also, I'd like to thank the legislation for your commitment to the water quality project that we have. It helps with the research for the water technology funds we have, or water technology farms we have ongoing, and it helps with seeing how we can make our aquifers last longer. Our market development program includes key resources with the U.S. Grains Council and also the International Grains Program at K-State. Our commission usually hosts trade delegations. This last couple of years, of course, that didn't happen, but we do look forward to doing that in the future. In the past, it's been good to work with teams from China, Peru, Mexico, and other countries. Domestically, we promote ethanol and all it can do, the lower carbon, the cleaner air. I know that's, the carbon sustainability, those are all big buzzwords. I think we have a crop that fits that fairly well. And we do have research ongoing in those areas. Sorghum as well competes with corn as a feed grain, and we have pork producers in the state that utilize it a lot, and the export program, as China's a very important customer for sorghum, and they utilize it in aquaculture and swine and other industries. They're ducks and chickens and et cetera. So, I could go on and tell you all the members and all that, but you can read that on your own. And it's been a fairly long day for you guys and the rest of us. And I did watch some of the activity in the House a while ago, and I commend you for your patience with that process. Included is our annual report, our audit, and other informational materials. Our goal is to be the best stewards of the resources we have in ensuring sorghum's sustainability and productivity now and for future generations. So with that, I will take questions.
All right. Kevin, thanks for being here. Questions for sorghum?
I tried to make it short and sweet because I was
Sure.
thinking you've been here a while.
Representative Newland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to make you think that I'm paying favoritism and not asking you questions. So
I'm fine either way.
What's the outlook for grain sorghum as far as number of acres this coming year? And the second part would be is what's your export outlook looking like for this upcoming year?
I would think that of course, the export outlook, that hinges a lot on China. I could probably say that with a lot of grains, it hinges a lot on China. I look for it to be good, the export market. I look for acres to probably be holding their own, maybe improving, but as far as I know, talking to seed dealers and et cetera, I think we'll hold our own as far as acres. The price is good. I think, you brought up about the price of inputs. We can still, at least lock in, not a loss anyway. So I think there's opportunity there. We do need water, but we did get the improvement in crop insurance basis change, so it's on a more even keel with corn maybe. So I that's a good point. And what was the other part of your question?
You
Was
got
that it? That was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate the presentation and your answers.
Very good. But yes, I think leveraging our research and education dollars, I think that leverage model is very good. We sure get a lot more bang for our buck. So I'm excited about sorghum. If you ever have any questions on sorghum, you can go to the National Sorghum Producers website. We've got some electronic information available too on the Kansas websites, podcasts, et cetera.
Okay. Well, you haven't taken the itch out of it, so.
No, but you get over that.
Okay.
You're not done yet. Just be
Oh,
careful. You're not going to be able.
Okay.
So
I can do this.
I know. No, you're doing fine, and we'll wrap this up. I know. So a couple questions. I'm looking here at the top U.S. grain exporters, and
it should be importers.
or importers, I guess. Or maybe probably if I look right. I have a globe. Where is Eritrea? Where is that?
I would bet I could. Do you know? Is it someplace?
Because I had an exchange student for a while from there, working on a master's in soybeans, I think, at
And,
K-State.
and it's
Or
located where?
sorghum, maybe. It was part of Egypt.
That
So
was,
it's been
that was
kind
my
of-
guess. It was
Yeah.
on that
Eritrea.
eastern part of,
Treya. Okay,
or,
all right.
yeah, eastern part of Africa.
Well, where I grew up and obviously haven't grown up yet. Being from Phillips County, used to be a very strong sorghum growing area, and it still is that area. I think of Morris County. So I want to ask you, why are you growing sorghum?
Well, lots of reasons. One reason is that it fits in our rotation. Another reason is that well, especially with the basis difference, it was a good reason to grow it. And I just pulled cows off of sorghum stalks a couple days ago and never fed any hay yet. So that's
You bet.
one of
Well,
the reasons.
and that's why. I
And,
mean, I want.
and it also holds the soil better than, say, sorry, soybeans. We grow a lot of soybeans. We grow more, yeah. But it has a better root system and holds the soil and obviously residue cover and things like that.
I guess I'm setting up for the mythbusters that sometimes they think only far western Kansas is a place to grow sorghum, but it does well in Morris County as
It
well.
does.
Yes.
It does.
That's. I guess I'm not sure exactly which direction to go. I mean, I think most people know that I'm a huge supporter of sorghum, and I'm glad of what you as farmer leaders have done. Kansas is, again, like we talked about last year, Kansas is the #1 sorghum producing, state in the country, and really, as you look at one of the exciting crops, it's sorghum, and I say that to say a lot of this innovation is driven by Kansas producers. And committee, I've invited Sarah Sexton Bowser to come with the Sorghum Innovation Center at K-State to kind of give us an update. And the legislature over the years has supported that a little bit and why that is an important crop. So I guess just thanks for what you all do as leaders. We talk about, it's not grandpa sorghum anymore, but there's still some challenges, but the efforts that you and in giving staff the opportunity to, and I'm not sure exactly what the story is, and maybe Mr. McCurry could, is a lot of the sorghum that goes to, the Baijiu from China, is that truly sourced from Kansas, or do they like Kansas sorghum when it comes to that? And if you don't mind addressing the committee.
Certainly, and I'll be brief. Jesse McCurry, staff with Kansas Sorghum. One of the things you should be aware of is that there are trials that are occurring in Kansas today for specific end uses from Chinese buyers, state and non-state actors, that are trying different varieties in different parts of Kansas and Texas for Baijiu production in China. Baijiu is a very special liquor. I'll just leave it at that. In China, it's the most ancient largest produced liquor in the world. It's a huge market. They use it in animal feed, they use it in ducks, they use it in other things. Currently, it's primarily their own production. There's some preferences and cultural things related to that. But if they want to pay you a premium to grow a certain waxy sorghum in a certain part of the state because they like it for Baijiu production and liquor consumption in China, we'll be glad to help them.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin, I just have a question. How does Milo fit into your rotation program? I mean, our son does corn, beans, corn, beans, corn, beans.
It could be similar. It could be similar, but we've grown less wheat in the last few years, but otherwise it usually was a Milo soybean wheat type rotation. And on our better ground, we would throw corn in there, but since prices had changed, we planted more wheat last year, but since prices had changed, that was our rotation. That's where it fit. But yeah, it's a good crop, so.
All right, very good.
Presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
you got another one? Go
No,
ahead.
Just
Oh,
thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, we're gonna, just a few more minutes left, so let's open it back up again to all our presenters, and so we'll go to Representative Carlin.
For the soybean testimony, I believe you said you were looking at shortening the growing season.
We're looking at trying to plant our crops earlier in the season and then let it mature faster. And the reason for that is a lot of your soybean acres now are being replanted to wheat in the fall, and it gives the opportunity for that to be done a little bit quicker.
Just remind me, I have a little bit of acres and we did have some soybeans and it was the best year ever, but I don't know when it was planted and when it was harvested.
The average producer will start planting in the middle of May. And in this particular situation, we're trying to do the middle of April and try and get that that production to be faster. And there's also the other reason, sometimes we can use a shorter season soybean and use less moisture. And especially for those of us in western Kansas, like myself, that's a big issue, is something that uses less moisture.
So the finish date would be, it'd be like April to, when do you
This
plant the
year,
wheat?
when I did that on my own farm, I was harvesting the first week of September.
And you'd like to move that back into August?
Yes.
So is the climate or the rainy season changing enough? Is that encouraging you? I mean, because it seems to me like we've kind of shifted some in our cycle. And I have nothing to look at to say that.
The reason why I'm doing it is it gives me more time to receive a rain so I can get that wheat crop back up. That's the reason why I'm
Makes sense to
doing
me.
it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, last call. Other questions for our presenters today? Yes, Representative Minix.
It seems to me like we've left a little bit out. We talked about ethanol and soy diesel. We have byproducts that even come from that type of process. And those feed ingredients get utilized in our livestock industry right here in the state of Kansas. And it's difficult to put a distinct value on all the grain production and all the byproducts that go down the line with that as we value add things here in Kansas. I just wanted to mention that.
All right, thank you. Again, all those presentations are available to the committee members. So we thank presenters today and the commodity commissions for sticking with us today and giving us this information. If we have follow-up questions, we will get them to you, and we may do that again. All right, committee, for a point of reference, we will not meet tomorrow. It was a call of the chair. The chair is calling no meeting. But on Thursday, we will have our first hearing of this session dealing with the ornate box turtle. So that'll be coming up Thursday. Bring your computer as we will have testimony that will be coming in. Terry will be back with us tomorrow. Anything else for the good of the cause? Again, thank you, Kansas Wheat, for the Cheez-Its. So with that, we are adjourned.